An Ironman!
You're all very welcome to episode 76. And today we're looking back at the Lanzarote Ironman 2026. I have three guests lined up for us all today to gather their views and thoughts on how they get on in the most challenging of all the Ironman courses in Europe. Joined firstly by a young fella from my very own club, Omagh Triathlon Club. Marty Loughran is an up-and-coming youngster within the club who stepped up to his first full-distance Ironman, and what a one to pick. Marty, thank you very much for agreeing to come on to the podcast.
Oh, Micky, thanks for having me.
Marty, you and I were having a bit of a chat one night in the pool, and you were asking me about Ironman Lanzarote, and I could see a wee glint in your eye, and I thought to myself, here's a lad actually thinking about maybe signing up to this event. And I know that you've done a few events before. I think last year you finished Challenge Bagheera. So it's not like you ran into this one just on a whim. You've done a lot of groundwork, but just for anybody listening who maybe doesn't appreciate the work that goes on in behind the scenes, give us a wee overview of your journey to that start line.
Look, my overview or my run up to it's probably a bit different. I came from Gaelic at the start. Like most, I played Gaelic up until I'm 29 currently, so till about 27, and hey, I loved it. There was a few things happened and we had lost in the club, and it maybe changed my perspective. And I thought, oh, I have to try something else. And me and another lad, Roy Loughran, did a lot of running. And I suppose the two of us were watching Ironman videos like everybody does on YouTube. And they're absolute hype videos. And we're like, wouldn't it be deadly? So we kind of just, we were going to do Venice. And then we thought, it doesn't suit. We'll book Alcudia, Mallorca. And then I suppose, then you need to figure out how to swim. And that was the next.
It's always useful to know how to swim if you're going to tackle an Ironman, absolutely.
Yeah. And then somebody recommended us to join Omagh Triathlon Club, and to be honest, like, we've never looked back. The community within the club was just like, I'd like to think now I have lifetime friends within the club. And they're guiding me in every way. Like they are their own wee family.
Brilliant stuff. You've taken to the club really well, and there's quite a lot of young people in the club sort of around your age group, and a great camaraderie to be had, and it's exciting. It's very exciting for us old bucks to watch these all progressing and coming on, particularly with the swim, and your swim's coming on fantastically. But you went out as well on the training camp, I guess, early on in the year to Lanzarote, and that maybe gave you a sense of what potentially lay ahead.
The training camp, I suppose I seen everybody going the previous year, and I thought, oh, training camps are only for athletes. And then I suppose I got chatting to everybody, and it seemed like a great holiday. So I can't remember who, but somebody messaged me going, does your girlfriend want to go? And I was like, oh, well, if both of us went, I could maybe swing this as a holiday. And anyway, she looked up Club La Santa, and it was like, yeah, we'll definitely go. And it was probably the best week of my life. It was unbelievable. The vibes, the people, and the cycling. The cycling was awful, but it was also amazing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Anybody that's ever cycled in Lanzarote will be able to appreciate that. It's both awful and awesome at the same time.
Yeah. I hated every evening, but I was still excited to do it again tomorrow.
The roads are absolutely mint in Lanzarote, and there's definitely a few hills. But it didn't put you off. You know, you had a very successful training camp. Tell me a wee bit just about the Club Lanza experience. I suppose this is relevant in the sense that Club Lanza are moving away from sponsoring Ironman Lanzarote as we're moving ahead. But I guess they're always still going to be a part of the event and certainly a massive part of the history. What was your experience as a first timer in Club Lanza?
Walking into Club Lanza feels like a bit of imposter syndrome because it feels like a place that the Christian Blumenfelds or the Lucy Charles Barkleys of the world belong. And I'm just sort of there playing mini golf and playing volleyball, trying to enjoy the whole process. Um, it's exactly how it looks in videos. It's an athlete's playground. And the 50-meter pools, they look small in video, but it'll be the next thing Omagh needs.
Absolutely. We can all get behind that campaign if it ever starts. Although there's a lot of people trying to campaign for a skate park and a bowling alley in Omagh, but that's been going on about 30 years, that shit. So we'll have to campaign a bit harder to get the 50-meter pool in.
Yeah, a few years.
So after the training camp, then you had a flavour of what lay ahead. And it might have terrified some people because of the wind, because of the elevation, because of the heat. But you thought, no, I'm gonna sign up. Or what was going through your head that made you actually hit the button and commit?
Well, the evening I suppose the few evenings I had mentioned you in the pool, in my head I had kind of decided I was gonna do it, but I didn't want to commit. And I had said to myself, I'll go to this training camp. I feel like I'm a good cyclist, but in the group cycles, it's hard to know if you're under pressure or if somebody's taking it easy. Went out to the training camps, threw myself into the deep end, and I survived. I wouldn't say I excelled, but I survived. And I thought, if I can survive 6 days back to back of cycling hard, surely I can survive one day. And then Damien O'Hagan had been at me constantly, and I knew I was going to do it, but I wanted to make sure I survived that training camp with no injuries, before committing to the price tag of the Ironman. And then on the bus home, I put in an entry, paid it, and sent a screenshot to Damien. And before I got off the bus to get out at Lanzarote Airport, the whole bus already knew.
There was no backing out at that point.
But so, I had no nerves. I was excited. I was excited.
Yeah. And you're an absolutely brilliant cyclist, I have to say. And you're a very modest lad, but you're a strong, strong cyclist. And I guess that training camp cemented that for you. Let's move towards the actual event. Talk me through your memories of your very first Ironman and what an event to pick.
On the run up to it, I was very laid back. I was ready to respect it, but I wasn't afraid of the challenge. But on the Saturday morning, I woke up with about 50 messages, and the emotions hit me, and I thought, "Oh God, what have I ahead here today?" And I wouldn't be an overly emotional person, but a lot of messages, I feed off other people's emotion, and some of the messages were leaning towards emotional, and I was like, oh, I was semi in and out of jitters and walking down the hill towards it, and I was thinking, oh, it's hard to describe if like you've been there and people listening to us have been here, but it's hard to. You don't feel sick. You don't feel scared. It's just a rush of what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's an indescribable feeling. It's an almost addictive. You're vibing off it, and at some point, I hate to tell you, but at some point, you're going to want to get that feeling back. But sorry about that, and sorry about your wallet. You may chat to the missus. But here, what about the actual lineup? Stand on that beach, all them feelings going through the stomach, surrounded by hundreds of athletes.
I was a wee bit late to the start line, and I finally got in and I seen Jude and Mick Holland up ahead of me, and I found Damien, and I was going to start beside him. And just before we went into the water, Damien turned to me and goes, "Now this is going to be hard." And I was waiting for the but a but never came, and then he just sort of took off into the water, and I was thinking, class. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. But see, as soon as you get into the swim, now don't get me wrong. I couldn't see anything when I was swimming towards the sun because I chose the wrong goggles. But the swim was lovely. It was a great swim. The water was crystal clear. And like I had no complaints. That when I came around the first buoy, I looked at my watch and it was a 32, and I was like, "There's no way I'm on that pace. There's something wrong here." So I didn't really care how I got on the second lap because I knew I was never gonna have a bad swim at that point, even if I lost a lot of time.
Yeah.
The atmosphere that morning was just, it was like I know Lanzarote don't do the clap and all, but the clap would have raised my heart rate through the roof. So I'm nearly glad it didn't happen in some ways.
Yeah. I know there's just like a sweet spot where you've got the adrenaline going and you're ready to kick up. Your heart rate's just at a nice pace and you're ready to hit the water. You don't want to be going in there spiked.
Yeah.
Out of the water, safe and sound. And it is an absolutely beautiful swim. It really is. And I suppose a wee bit of the tidal current might have helped along as well, just to pull you along in certain parts.
Yeah.
But out on the bike, then you must have, firstly, a big sense of relief. You've got to swim over. You're in any catastrophes or any handlings in T1 before you got out on the bike?
My biggest catastrophe in T1 was I forgot calf sleeves. So it really wasn't that. I wasn't out racing, so it didn't really matter. But I took my time. I put a lot of sun cream on because obviously I'm very ginger, so the sun just doesn't agree with me. I took my time. I get changed, shoes on, and I just got myself ready for the next 6+ hours of hills.
And talk me through those hills, Marty. How did that bike go? You'd had good sort of flavour of what was going to lie ahead, but I guess just with all the athletes spread out and strung out in front of you, overtaking people, getting overtaken, did you keep yourself in your own game and your own pace, or did you
Yeah,
let
well,
things get on top of you? How did you handle that?
well, I had my friend AI helping me out with that one. It told me before the bike, or a few days before, go onto your bike computer, switch average speed off, switch speed off, and just to power up. That's all you want to see. So I just chose a power. So going up the first hill, I was overtaken by a lot of people, but like going up the hill into the Keysey, I was overtaking a lot of people. When I got up into the Keysey, you should have felt that. You've been there. The atmosphere was ridiculous. There was people everywhere. There was children with signs. There was Shane McGill planted in the middle of her with an Ireland flag. It was just, I wish I could bottle it. I would go back to do that bit again. Now it was still early on in the day at that point, right enough.
And then the two big claims, that sort of power management early on would have stood you in good stead then for the big claims, the Mirador and the likes. So that tactic obviously paid off. How did the
Yeah.
bike fit you then overall?
I kept my heart rate low, to be honest, because I was afraid of the run. The run was kind of my fear on that if I push too hard, my legs are going to explode. I didn't find the bike awful, but I also didn't push like mad on the bike, and like everybody else, we had a headwind, but the crosswinds weren't too bad. The heat was tough now. The bike itself, I enjoyed the bike. I did enjoy the bike. Now, at about 160k, I thought this 20k would need to hurry up a bit. But when I got to the 110 mark and you sort of turned back, I thought, right, that is unofficially halfway in my head. So I'm home now. I just need to get back.
I think that's the way to do it. And a lot of people would recommend that's how you tackle an Ironman. You don't burn all your matches on the bike, because then you've nothing left for the run. So you've went smart, you've trained smart. You're in T2, bike done. There's something about this sense of relief, getting off the bike, and just to stand up. It's a mixed emotion because it's great to be off the bike, but then there's the sudden realization, right, I've got fucking 26 miles to run here. Talk me through how you handled that situation and what did anything, if anything, go on for you in T2 before you got out on the run?
Well, I made a foolish decision a few weeks before and got a new set of bike shoes. So my feet were in a lot of pain when I stepped onto the mat, and the mat was on fire in T2. The sun had baked it roasting hot, but somebody sprayed me with water, got in, and as soon as I put on the running shoes, I couldn't feel the pain in my feet. So I was like, right, just a marathon, that's all. But I took like 9 minutes in T2. I really took my time. I cleaned myself off, new sun cream, and I thought, right, run to an aid station, run to another aid station, run to another aid station. But no, T2 was good. T2 was good. And when I took off running, hey, the pace actually, I actually had to slow myself down because I knew I was never going to sustain the pace that I set out at.
You went
You know,
out probably a bit just excited and buzzing and the adrenaline and stuff. And it's something that happens, I think, quite regularly where people go out a bit too hard at the start, just eager to get on with it, I suppose.
yeah. Well, somebody sent me a message a few weeks prior because I sort of signed up naively, and somebody sent me a message in between signing up in the Airman going, what was your longest days? And I was like, oh, I suppose I've swam 2K before. I've cycled on the training camp. I had cycled 180. And then I was like, the longest run I've ever done is a half marathon. And they were like, oh, that's not good. And I was like, oh, it couldn't be that bad. Like, so I was kind of in my head thinking, into the unknown we go.
Yeah.
But
So
it was,
your first marathon was that marathon as part of your Ironman experience in Lanzarote?
yeah, 33-degree heat was new for me.
33-degree heat and legs knackered from 112 mile on a bike. And all that after you did an hour and a half or an hour and a bit swimming and whatever it was. So, what a way to do your first marathon.
Hey, I wouldn't do it any differently. It was, they're all tough. So just accept it.
Talk me through the run. What did you feel on the run? That first half of the run, some people like it, some people hate it. Big long out and back, out to the airport and back. How did you find that compared to the two sort of shorter legs out and back? Did you like
Well,
that setup, or what?
The first 5K, I suppose, is nice because you're within everybody's around you. But then when you get to the airport, obviously, it gets a lot more spread out. And the next 10K, when you get there and back, I suppose it was kind of just timing myself of the people around me. But like as far as planes landing and planes taking off, I was thinking none of this is exciting me right now. I I suppose I liked it from the point of view that when you get back, you knew you were halfway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a big psychological milestone for me to think that's half the run done. And that was massive. I actually like that. I preferred that compared to the Cork experience where I had 4 laps to do. So I would be a big fan of that. One long out and back and then 2 short ones. The run was very hot, I was told. How did you cope with that heat as well? Us white, ginger, Irish blokes probably don't do that well in the heat.
I bought a compressed sport hat that could hold ice in it, and it was great. Now, somewhere in the day, Damon and Grania's kids, Eddie Malloy's kids, and Mick Collins' son had found water guns, and they were spraying everybody as they walked past, and it was great. Now, the water was basically warm by the time it hit you, but it was good. It was the ice in the hands and the ice in the hat. I actually didn't get too hot, weirdly. I'd recommend that hat I got to anybody that's struggling with heat.
Top tip there. Happy days.
Yeah.
After the run, of course, coming down that wee hill, you can see the finish line. You can hear the music. You can see the lights of the gantry and all the rest. What's going through your head and your heart as you're turning that, knowing that this time I'll not be turning and going back out. I'm going straight through it. I'm finished. I have finished an Ironman.
Well, the last few K were get tough because I couldn't take jails for the last 2 hours. But coming down that straight, I thought, about 2K, I thought, why am I not more emotional about this? And then with about 400 meters to go, it kind of just started to flood in. Oh, this is real. This is going to happen. But it really took to the dying moments before it hit me. And then, do you see when I seen the bell, I thought, this is it. Enjoy it. This is it. Like a year and a half or 2 years ago, you thought Ironman were for elite athletes, and now you're gonna complete Lanzarote. I nearly took the bail off the the mount. I actually cut my hand open ringing the bell that hard. And then I came across the line with so many emotions, and Damien was standing at the other side, and he was, congratulating me and trying to talk, and I couldn't say a word to him because I was just, if I spoke, it would just be an absolute emotional mess. So I just kind of had to nod and hide behind the sunglasses. You've been there, like it's just you can't describe. You're exhausted, you're anxious, you're happy, it's undescribable. You're proud of yourself, but you're also disgusted at how you feel. It's just such a mixture of
Yeah.
man.
It's an absolute roller coaster. It's ridiculously difficult actually to put into words. You've managed to do it fairly well there, to be honest. But yeah, so much emotions. Um, you actually finished it in an amazing time, 11 hours and 11 minutes and a bit of change. Absolutely phenomenal on
Yeah.
that course, on that day with that heat. What a debut! And looking back now and thinking back about the achievement, how has it changed? Has it changed you? Or do you think about yourself differently now that you've done that? Are you more confident in yourself and your abilities? You've already made a couple of suggestions throughout this that I used to think this was for elite athletes and this is only for this type of athlete. I'm talking to an athlete. Do you see yourself now as an athlete, Marty? Because to do what you've done as your very first Ironman is something really special, and I think everybody in the club would echo those thoughts.
I suppose I always thought that, but I'm sure you also feel this. You feel like you're in great shape, and you're one of the fittest people that like you really know. But then when you go into Omagh Tri Club, everybody's so much fitter. You're like, how can I train so much and I'm only average compared to some of these people? I suppose that it's a tough question. I suppose that I'm proud of what I achieved, and I'm a lot more confident in my cycling ability now.
Um,
Um, my swimming is very humbling.
Swimming's a tricky one for everything to come into alignment.
Yeah.
There's a very, very technical aspect. But here, you done it. You got round it. You got through it. You're wearing the medal. You're wearing the t-shirt. Um, what's next on the agenda then, Marty? Looking forward for the rest of the year. Is there any other big events or what's next on your bucket list?
The way I've looked at most of these events is I'm racing for a challenge. So Lanzarote, a challenge. And that's the only reason I wanted to do it. And Alpe d'Huez is kind of the next. And so I suppose Lanzarote, you're against the wind and heat. And I'm going to Alpe d'Huez now to try to race against gravity, I suppose.
Brilliant. And race against gravity, you will, from all accounts. I'm hoping at some point as well later on in the year to get a few of the OTC crew together and we'll do a wee review on the Alpe d'Huez as well. So
Yeah.
you might come back for that. But listen, Marty, thanks very much for agreeing to come on to the podcast. Lovely chatting to you and amazing emotions expressed there and making the hairs in the back of my neck stand up once again, just kind of reliving that with you. So all the very best for the rest of the season and good luck in the Alpe d'Huez.
Thanks very much, Micky.
This podcast is sponsored by Velo Yellow, providing bike transport to events across Europe. Supported also by Fear the Turtle Triathlon Coaching, Conway Cycles and Vitalize Omagh. Contact details available in the episode description.
Next up is Lars Ronning. Lars, you're very welcome back on the podcast. You and I both originally recorded our episode back in December, and you were very much at that point beginning to ramp up your training in preparation for your Ironman Lanzarote. So without further ado, Lars, how did it all go for you?
I had a great day, but it didn't go exactly according to plan. But despite all of that, I had a really good day. I got a good result.
You certainly did. Absolutely amazing result. Let's break it down into the three elements, or even beforehand, if you want. The lead up to it. I know you've been there on a few occasions. Was it much the same in terms of the day before and the run up to it? Was there any hiccups along the way, or did everything go according to plan?
So this was my sixth Ironman Lanzarote, And something that I always do when I'm racing Lanzarote is that I'm going down about 8 to 10 days before the race to acclimatize. And one of the things I really want to make sure is that I get used to the heat, because on race day sometimes it can be very, very hot, both on the bike and also on the run. But also getting used to the terrain again. So taking in the climbs and doing a bit of running on the promenade, and also getting the swim done a couple of times before race day. And I did the same this year when I arrived in Lanzarote, and this year it was 8 days before. It was actually surprisingly, it wasn't cold, but it certainly wasn't hot either. So one of the things that I wanted to achieve was to get used to the heat, but the heat wasn't there. On the other hand, it was extremely windy. And I know that you will be speaking with Chris Wild as well. And Chris contacted me via Facebook Messenger and said, it's pretty windy here, isn't it? And when Chris says it's windy, it really is windy. And we had about 45 kilometers an hour winds. So fairly windy, yes.
Those initial dips into the sea must have been absolutely wonderful for you, because I've been tracking your swimming, and we talked about this on your last episode, because the sea temperature where you're at back home is certainly somewhat on the cooler side compared to the lovely bath-like temperatures in Lanzarote.
Yes. Oh, it was fantastic getting to water that was maybe about 20 degrees warm. Because in Denmark, I've been swimming in water that was like 3 to 4 degrees during the winter, in a fairly thick wetsuit. So getting to warmer climates was fantastic.
What about race day then? Standing on the beach, usual nerves, or are you a pro, an old pro at this stage?
Well, I'm definitely not an old pro, and that's also why I want to maybe spend a couple more minutes to talk about what I did before the race.
Sure, yeah.
Because what I did was that I did about 260 kilometers on my bike, because I wanted to make sure that I tried out all the climbs and I got used to the terrain again, because I've not been racing Lanzarote for about 12 years. So I really needed to get back to all the climbs that I knew so well. Another thing that I did was that I had brought both a disc wheel and a deep section wheel with me from Denmark, because I wasn't quite sure whether I was going to use one or the other. And I put on the disc wheel on the first ride, and I just thought, this is way too windy for a disc. So then I changed back to a deep section. So I did quite a bit of experimentation before race day to make sure that I had the right wheel, that I was running with the right shoes, that I had the right goggles, and just that I was as prepared as I could be.
You're very, very thorough, and you take these events really serious, and we can all learn a lot from your approach to endurance, because, and perhaps somewhat naively, we kind of just, a lot of us, well, me, myself, will just rock up and hope that everything works out on the day. But it does pay to be prepared and to have every eventuality accounted for, I suppose.
Yes, I'm trying to be as prepared as I can be. Now, come race day, or 1 or 2 days before race day, it actually got really hot again. And that was a little bit of a shock to the system, that suddenly we had quite hot days and not very windy. So I thought it was going to be a hot day in the office, and it did.
So, and there we go. Mother Nature throws a curveball in with all your preparation. She turns up the heat, turns down the wind, and it's back to plan B.
Exactly. Which means that I didn't really get to acclimatize to the heat, because the heat hadn't been there.
The heat hadn't been boosted until
No.
race. So the heat rocketed then. I'm told from the club mates and the guys that I've spoken to that it was very hot on the day. I guess we would have felt that on the course, probably more so on the run, but let's break it down into the swim, bike, run. Talk me through
Yes.
your swim experience.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, first of all, before the swim, I was very pleasantly surprised that my son Magnus had traveled from the UK. He lives in London. He had traveled from the UK to surprise his dad on race day, and I had no idea that he was going to be there.
Brilliant.
So suddenly, when I was walking in my wetsuit down to swim start, I heard this voice, "Dad, Dad's like, who is that?" And that was Magnus waiting for me to start the swim. So very emotional to see Magnus there, and totally unexpected.
Brilliant stuff. Well played, Magnus. And did that settle you, or did that maybe knock you out of your mindset ever so slightly, or did it give you a wee bit of a fire in your belly, or how did you respond to that unexpected twist?
Well, it was certainly emotional, but my goggles didn't get foggy, which I which they could have. But it did give me more fire in my belly to just have a good day. Also because I knew that he had rented a car, that he told me that, and he was going to be at some of the section on the bike course and would be cheering on me. So I was just really looking forward to a great race.
How long had it been since you had last seen Magnus then in the flesh?
Oh, it only been about a month, maybe a month and a half, because we do see each other quite regularly, either when I'm in the UK or when he comes to Denmark. So it wasn't long ago, but a big surprise.
What a lovely thing to do, and extra special on the day. The swim then, reports were from Lanzarote that the sea was nice and calm on the day. There was no big swells or anything unexpected. The swim, I hope for you, went according to plan.
It went pretty well. I got an hour and 23, and I've been hoping for maybe between 1:15 and 1:20. But I was happy with the 1:23. I did cramp 3 times on the swim, so twice in one calf and once in another calf, and that means that I had to slow down a little and take it easy. So that impacted my pace. And then we had the usual, couple of fights on the way. I was swimming next to somebody, I think, who would have been more at home in a wrestling match than swimming. He kept pushing me right, and I just had to, give in eventually, and then, slow down and continue on the inside of him. And I was trying to follow some feet that I had no idea where they were going, so they kept getting me off track. So I think I did probably half of the swim on my own in clear water, and half I was trying to find some good feet, but I wasn't very lucky doing that.
It's always one of the top tips the coaches will give out. If you can find a pair of feet, stay on the feet. I suppose
Yes.
we don't really always take into consideration that we need to be sure that the guy that we're following is going in the right direction, because if his sighting isn't very good, we're going to be doing extra yardage in the swim. But look, you got through the swim okay. No issues with was it the same Aussie exit as usual, 2 laps?
Yeah, it was the same. It's always nice be able to break it down in 2 halves and get on land for a few seconds and then dive in again. So yeah.
All good. T1 then, no hiccups. T1 all went according to plan. Loads of sun cream and a bit of food. Or what way did you tackle T1?
I had to take T1 a little bit carefully, because again I'd been cramping a couple of times. So I wanted to make sure that when I took my wetsuit off, that I didn't do something that could maybe make my calves cramp again. So it did take a little bit of time. And since I knew it was going to be a hot day, I had brought arm coolers, those white sleeves that you put on your arms that cool you down, and you can pour water on, and it cools you down on the race. And putting something on your wet arms can take a little bit of time, so my transition was pretty slow, to be honest. But I was feeling great. I had, again, a reasonably good swim, and I didn't feel tired at all, and I was just waiting to get back in my element, which is my bike. That's my preferred discipline.
Talk us through the bike then, Lars. You had obviously wrecked the course. You'd put in plenty of hours and you'd familiarized yourselves with the climbs. It all, I'm assuming, went to plan, or was there any hiccups along the way?
So what I had done prior to dropping my bike off is that I'd been going to this website called Best Bike Split, and I'd set a target of 6 hours for the bike. And I've done the old bike course in 5:52, 5:56, although that was 12, 14, 15 years ago. But anyhow, I set myself the target to see if I can do the bike in 6 hours. So I've been writing down little notes for myself on pieces of paper that I covered with plastic that I taped onto my handlebars, so I knew exactly where I needed to be by when in order to hit 6 hours. And I was bang on schedule until about 40K, and then it just became really, really hot. And I started losing concentration, and my mind started wandering. And I know that when that happens, it's usually because I'm running low on electrolytes. So I got some more electrolytes, some Hammer Endurolites, and that sorted that out. But because of the heat, I could also see that I was not able to put the same amount of power into the pedals that I needed to do to hit 6 hours. So I thought, okay, it's not going to be 6 hours; it's going to be 6:15, and that's all right. But it just got warmer again, and eventually at one of the aid stations, I had to take my helmet off and cool myself down with cold water. So that cost a little bit of time. After the swim, I actually really needed to go to the toilet. But I thought it's not so bad that I need to go to the toilet right now. So I'll just see how long I can go before I need to take a toilet break.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got to the personal aid station, which is about halfway, I just had to go to the toilet. So that I did, and that was, it's very nice to get that done.
Absolutely. It's definitely more comfortable doing it off the bike than it is trying to do it in transit, because I've heard
Yeah,
horror
exactly.
stories.
Exactly. I had to cool myself down on another aid station because again it was getting pretty hot. Then I got to the 108K mark, which is a small climb before you get to Mirador del Rio. And I know from experience, when I hit that mark on the bike course, if I'm feeling good at that fairly steep climb before Mirador del Rio, then I'm going to have a good day. And I was feeling pretty good there, so that gave me confidence that I was going to have a good day. But regardless, I wasn't able to keep the pace on the bike. So eventually 6:15 became 6:30. And then eventually I just accepted that this was going to be slower than I had planned for. So I said to myself, it's got to be below 7 hours because I cannot finish any Ironman bike in something with 7 hours. That would be a real defeat. But eventually I completed the bike in 6 hours and 43, which was again about 43 minutes slower than I had been hoping for. But most importantly, I felt good all the way, and I just really enjoyed it. And one of the things I always enjoy, because I'm a fairly slow swimmer, it's overtaking a lot of people on their bikes that are faster swimmers than me. So I overtook at least 500 people, probably more, on the bike. And there's nothing better than overtaking people on 10 and 20,000 pound bikes. My bike is 15 years old. It's all mechanical. It's 10 speed. It's not about the bike. It's about who's on the bike.
Absolutely. I can only dream of a 7-hour bike, and I can only dream about overtaking people on a bike. So rest assured, had I have been one of those people ahead of you in the swim, you would have been roasting me, I would say, about 5 mile into the bike course. But no, that's amazing. It was obviously very hot, and that's the sort of thing that's going to slow you down. So understandably so. So getting off the bike and into T2, is it a case of getting in there and getting out of there as quick as possible, or do you sit down, do you regroup? Is there a full change of clothes? How do you tackle that transition area?
Oh, there's absolutely no change of clothes. I'm racing in the same clothes that I'm wearing under the wetsuit in the morning on the swim. What I had done was that this year I decided to run with a running vest with a bladder, and in this bladder I had my own homemade a carbohydrate mix that I'd also been using on the bike in a big 1.2 liter bottle that I'm using on the bike. And the mix that I'm using is a mix that I've been talking to ChatGPT about. So actually, what I'm racing on is what ChatGPT thought would be a good combination for me, and it's also what I've been using in training. So I've been doing my own DIY carbohydrate mix, both for the bike and the run. And I had that in my bladder on the run as well. So the plan was to have enough carbohydrates with me in my bladder, and then I would be just taking water and Coke in the 8 stations. What I also did was I brought a special hat. It's called a hypercool hat that I've been using, and maybe I mentioned it on the podcast we had last year. But it's the same hat that I've been using on Marathon des Sables in the desert, and I've been using on all the most of the Ironman Lanzarotes I've done. That's got this special fabric that when you make it wet, it just cools you down, and also the evaporation keeps you cool. So I had a good run. I had been hoping that I could start out in a pace of about 5 minutes per kilometer, but it wasn't realistic. So I settled into a pace of about 5 minutes 30, and I kept that pace throughout the entire marathon. So I walked the 8 stations, but I ran all the sections in between, and I ran all the hills. So had a good run. Now Magnus was there on the run, as he'd been also on the bike. On the bike, he was cheering at me 5 or 6 times on the bike. So he'd been driving around and making sure that he could find me where I was going to be. And the same on the run. My coach, Oliver Harkin, he'd also flown to Lanzarote, not just to meet with me, but also to talk to other people. So he was there on the run as well. And Magnus said, deep. He was shouting at me, "Dig deep, Dad! Keep going." And of course I had to. Oliver told me that if I could maintain the pace, then I had a chance of at least making it into the top 10. I wouldn't be able to be in the top 3, which is what I've been hoping to be able to do, but at least I'd be able to make it in the top 10. And he was also there on the final stretch down towards the finish, and telling me, keep going. And I just wanted to get the best possible time. So I made the decision, maybe the mistake, but I made the decision to run through the last couple of 8 stations, which is something you should never do, because you really do need the hydration that you get in the 8 station. But I just wanted to get a good time. So I ran through the last couple of 8 stations, and I crossed the finish line in, I think, 12:43, which was reasonable. And I felt great. But about 1 minute later, I felt absolutely horrible, and I was just feeling that I was going to pass out, and I was really dizzy, and I was starting to feel this. My fingers were trembling, and I could just feel that something was not quite right. So I went to the medical tent and asked the medics to check me over. So I spent a good hour in the medical tent. They took my blood pressure. They tested my blood for electrolytes and if I had enough sugar. And all of those metrics were perfectly fine. I was just exhausted and a little bit dehydrated. So I didn't need a drip or anything, but I did spend a good 45 minutes just lying in the medical tent and getting my shit together.
Wow. I mean, you went through it all there, didn't you, Lars? Like, absolutely fantastic time. And you did finish in 10th position as well. You got what you wanted, and you sacrificed those last couple of aid stations, and that was your reward. Somewhat spent and a bit tired, but home safe.
Yes.
There was a lovely video that your son Magnus shared on social media that kind of captured his experiences of cheering on his dad. Let's take a wee look at that here now.
My dad is doing an Ironman tomorrow morning, so I'm about to jump on a plane so I can surprise him at the start line. An Ironman is basically a triathlon where you swim 300 kilometers, then you cycle 180 kilometers, and then you run a marathon. I don't know who would want to do that to themselves and why. However, my dad wants to do that. I went down to check the start last night, and there are basically 1,300 bikes all lined up, and the whole village is just Ironmanned out. Come to Lars! Come to Lars!
It's the fantastic the 2 Ironman World Champ.
I'm driving around trying to support them as much as I can. However, most of the roads out here are closed, but it is on a beautiful island, so the landscape is just incredible. I would not want to be out cycling in this heat. However, it looks like Mars, basically. I love the sign. Hey. Kazafa! Kazafa! Woo! But I've not been to the... Yeah, okay. My dad has just started a marathon, so to motivate him, I've made him a little sign. On one side, it says, "My dad is so hard," and on the other side, it says, "Push harder, daddy." So, if that doesn't motivate him, then I don't know what will. Kosovo, keep going, keep going. Woo! Today's been such a beautiful, beautiful day. Obviously, as a kid, you grow up with your parents supporting you in everything you do, but I feel like it's quite rare you get to support your own parents in something that they do. So being able to have this moment with my dad has been such a blessing. And yeah, my dad is an Ironman.
So having watched that, Lars, does that bring back memories for you?
Oh, it brings back memories big time, and I'm so grateful, so thankful that he traveled down there and surprised me. It made the day very, very special.
It's an amazing wee video, and it's so personal and it's lovely, and you can really see the shock in your face whenever we see him on the beach there calling you over. And
Yes.
it really is a very special thing. Lars, absolutely fantastically well done in Lanzarote. You didn't get what you wanted for, but there was a number of things that got in the way, things that you can't really factor in. But I'm assuming that you're going to go again. So what's next on the plan? I know you have a vision and a dream to try and get to Kona. So what's plan B look like?
Yeah, I'll mention that in a second, but there are several reasons why I felt that I had a really good day in Lanzarote, despite not hitting the time goal that I'd set myself. First of all, there are certain things I want to make sure that I achieve when I race an Ironman. First of all, the swim cannot be anything slower than something with 120. So I achieved that. The bike cannot be any slower than something around with 6 hours. If it's a hilly course, if it's a flat course, it has to be something with 5 or less. The marathon cannot be more than about 4 hours, and this marathon in Lanzarote was 4 hours and 5 minutes. Also, the finish cannot be anything slower than something with 12 hours. So I hit that goal, and I don't want to finish in the dark. So I hit all those 6 goals. I didn't get the finish time I wanted, but I hit those goals, and that made it a good day regardless.
Absolutely fantastic day. I mean, it's an amazing time. I would never get a time like that. So I mean, hats off. I think that was an absolutely outstanding performance. I would be absolutely
Well, thank you.
over the moon to be anywhere next or near that type of time. Your commitment and your training and your attention to details pays off. You know yourself, you know your body, you know your training, you know your zones, you know your nutrition. Great example for anybody thinking about doing endurance sport. This is what you do. You do what Lars does, and you'll not go far wrong. So, what's next in the pipeline for you then?
Yeah, so what's next is that I'm still working on qualifying for Kona in the 61 to or 60 to 64 age group. And where I think I've got the best shot at qualifying is if it's a challenging bike and if it's a challenging run. Again, because my background really is biking, and also I've done a lot of ultra running during the last 10 years. So finding a race with a tough bike and a tough run, I think suits me well. So I've signed up for an Ironman Leeds on the 16th of August, which I think is a good combination for me. Also because hopefully it's not going to be as hot as it was in Lanzarote. I mean, you never know, but chances are it's going to be a cooler race, and I'm really looking forward to that.
That sounds like the perfect combination there as well. Is there a sea swim in Leeds as well? Is there? Or
No, it's a lake, and
Lake.
I absolutely prefer sea swims over lakes, but I guess you can have it all.
Yeah, well, the only thing is there'll be no currents and the waves won't be too big, even if it is windy on the lake. So your swim time should be spot on. And then you'll be overtaking all the locals on them hills. So brilliant stuff.
I'll try. That I
oh,
can guarantee you.
we look forward to following you in that. Lars, thank you very, very much for sharing the update, and the very best luck for all your training. And we'll keep the fingers crossed that we'll see you qualify for Kona off the back of your, no doubt, fantastic crack at Leeds.
All right. Thank you so much, Micky. And yes, I'll give it some welly.
Good man. Our next guest up is Chris Wild, who is the only guest on the podcast, and quite possibly the only man ever to go from Ironman to Iron Maiden. So, Chris, great to have you back on. Great to see you live in the flesh.
Good to be back.
We're doing a Lanzarote review, and I've saved you to the end. There's a lovely clip of you on the internet. We'll play that later on. It pays homage to the fact that you have been going to Lanzarote for a long time. So the last time we spoke, you were looking forward to participating in your 20th Lanzarote Ironman. And my God, you showed up. Tell us about the big day and how it all worked out for you.
Yeah, it was one of those days that everything kind of comes to plan. The weather was typical. You know, it wasn't as windy as it can be, but if it's not as windy, then it's going to be hot. And the run was super hot. But the swim was quick. I don't know why I came out the first lap, 30 minutes on the clock. I mean, that's insane for me. I knew I'd get slower in the second lap, but yeah, I came out 1:03, which is probably a PB. And because that was buzzing around my head, I then did T1 like it was my first ever triathlon. So yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I think my head was just, completely fried. So it just pays to pay attention. So yeah, got changed, no problem. Well, picked up my helmet, took my wetsuit off, grabbed my blue bag. For years at Lanzarote, they've had a bin where you dump your bag in. Other races they do, but most races now you hang it back on the peg. So I run out the tent with my bag in my hand, and it's like, oh. So I then ran back into the tent and hung my bag up, came out, got to my bike, went to turn my Garmin on. Why is this not turning on? I'd put it on upside down. So my Garmin was on upside down. So I then took it off and dropped it on the floor, at which point I then picked my bike up and dropped my bike on the floor. All this time, there's a guy with a video camera who decided, I'm going to video this guy with a stupid bike with all the crazy stickers on it.
In a what not to do in transition one compilation.
It was so my shoe came off. I was running along, not realizing my shoe was coming off, and this guy shouting at me. He's got a video camera in one hand and my bike shoe in his other hand. So I then stopped, grabbed that off him, got past the mountain line, and just had to sort myself out for a minute. So yeah, at that point, it's like, right, well, all the time I'd gained in the swim, I'm now just lost in transition. But the bike was good. I felt pretty strong. Like I say, it wasn't massively windy, and I could see there's a few out and back sections, and I could see there weren't many other old guys around. So yeah, they've shortened the course since last year. It's still long, but it's not as long. So I just managed to scrape under 6 hours for the bike, which was something I never thought I'd be doing here again. So that was really pleasing. Got out on the run. And again, as you know, there's that huge long lap down to the airport. I have never known that so hot. Going past the airport was just soul-destroyingly warm. But good, and it was fairly quiet. And again, I couldn't see many other old guys. So it's like, oh, this is good. End of the first lap, I saw my dad, who'd been out in the car chasing me around the island. How he does it, I don't know. I probably don't want to know, but it's just so lovely to see him pop up. He's 84 now. But yeah, he drives around the fields of Lanzarote to see me on the bike. And I said to him, I said, what position am I in? And he's like, oh, I don't know. But by the time I'd been round the turn point and come back out again, he said, you're in third. And I was like, oh, that's really good. But I was quite looking forward to slacking off a bit now and having the odd walk between aid stations and stuff. And I had a friend who's raced here a few times. Her husband was racing. She's injured. She was proper on it with the tracker. So she was giving me time gaps to the guy in front, which was irrelevant. But more importantly, the guy in fourth and whether he was catching me. So yeah, I just kind of had to put my big boy pants on and suck it up and get on with it, which, yeah, thankfully managed to do. And yeah, first ever Ironman podium. So that was a bit special.
That's unbelievable. And I remember the last time we were chatting, you were just looking forward to becoming one of maybe 3 people that have ever completed the Lanzarote course 20 times. And to finish it on the podium must have been absolutely the icing on the cake for you.
Yeah, it was. I think there's probably 7 or 8 guys. Yeah, I'm still a beginner compared to a couple of them. Yeah, there's at least 3 done 25 now, which is lovely. And we all kind of know each other now because we see each other every year and we're all that stupid. But yeah, it was extra special for me because I've been coming to Club Lanza pretty much since it opened in the early 80s, as we discussed last time. This is the last time they're organising the Ironman. So to get a trophy which says Club Lanza Ironman on it, I'd always wanted one, and I kind of assumed they'd run it forever and I'd get one when I was 85 maybe. So to just about that's what kind of kept me going on the run. It's like, this is your one chance. You're in with a shout. All those years and hours of training, do not mess it up now. Just suck it up and get on with it.
Let's remind ourselves of the minute that you were called onto the podium.
20th Club Lanza Ironman Lanzarote event. He'd come here 19 times. He'd never made it to the podium. He's been coming to Club Lanza for 40 years and really, really wanted to get a trophy that had Club Lanza Ironman Lanzarote on it. I almost had tears yesterday when I heard that story. I'm holding them back pretty well now. 20 times is the charm, I guess, right? Your third place finisher, podium first time, Chris Wild. Congratulations, Chris.
So looking back at that, Chris, what sort of memories does that bring back for you? Tell me what was going through your head there. You're obviously very excited to see the wee devil horns going out and all at the end there. What did it mean to you to finally make that lonely but special walk to the podium?
It was lovely, and it's a bit embarrassing because I was getting more attention off Kevin and the team because I've known them, because I've been here so long. I was getting more attention than most of the pros were. So yeah, getting that kind of shout out when Lucy Charles and Sam Laidler were sitting there having just done the most exceptional performances possible. Yeah, I find that a bit embarrassing, but it's really nice, and you know, it's very sweet they recognise it. But yeah, not in the same league of athlete at all. But no, that was nice. I had a podium here in the Volcano Triathlon a few years ago, and a friend said to me after that, "I have never seen anyone look so embarrassed standing on a podium." But I think I've got a bit better at it now. But yeah, no, it was really special to finally get that little bit of plastic that people like us obsessed about, medals and trophies that, in the big scheme of things, are absolutely meaningless. But no, it was lovely to do, and seems a lot longer than 3 weeks ago.
It's well known at this point, and you've already mentioned it just before the wee clip there, that this was going to be the last Ironman in Lanzarote sponsored by Club Santa. What's your thoughts on the departure of Club Santa? It obviously has a very special place in your heart, but I suppose moving forward for the event, what's your views on that?
It's a really tricky one. I mean, yeah, Club Santa have been doing it since the start, and I know so many people who work on the race. It is like a home race for me. It's one of 2, possibly 3 franchise races that was around, and it just doesn't make financial sense for Club Santa to give Ironman a huge amount of money every 3 years just to run a race. This hotel's full nearly all year round, so you know I've been worried for a while, but the fact they've had these negotiations with Ironman, particularly with Ironman Spain over the last few years, and you know the race is staying, because the rumours are always, you know, every time the franchise is up, it's like, oh, this is the last one. And I think Fabio, the race director, summed it up beautifully at the awards. He said, "This is our kid, and it's just kind of leaving home, but we're still a really proud parent, and we're going to keep an eye on them." And I think that's just such a beautiful way of putting it. And Club de Santa will be involved next year as a transition, and I'm sure many of the staff will still be helping out and enjoying it, and it's still going to be special. I think Ironman Spain have taken it on. They're definitely going to push it a bit harder now. It's kind of in-house. I mean, I found out the race date off the Ironman app, which is kind of unheard of. So they're really pushing it, and it's really pleasing they've sorted that out, because again, the rumor mill was just going crazy about when the race was going to be, whether it was going to happen. You know, we don't know details yet, but we now know it's on May the 15th next year. So I hope you've freed the date up in your calendar.
I need to do some negotiations, but I'll see. I'll get back to you on that one. I suppose moving forward for next year, we're not going to really have a sense of what to expect. And I guess there could be some speculation about, will it be the same? Will it have the same kind of vibe? Will that red carpet experience be the same? You know, will we see that kind of electronic display in the background as we cross the line? Will that be replaced by the blander version of an Ironman gantry? And of course, the course. And no better man than you to talk about the course. And I suppose moving forward and with so many unknowns, what changes, if any, would you like to see come to the Ironman course in Lanzarote? Maybe it's perfect as it is. I'm thinking in particular of the bike, because you've been doing it for 20 odd years. You've been on various different routes. Is there any parts of the bike you'd like to see scrapped, more bits taken in? Anything of that?
It's so tricky, because you know, us as athletes have an idea of what we'd love, but it's got to fit in with what works for Ironman, and more importantly, what works for the island, the people who live here, because you know it's massive disruption, and the fact that the Cabildo, the local government, are so on board with it, I think is a huge bonus. So, you know, there's talk it may go to 2 laps, it may go to 3 laps, because that's easier and less disruptive. And if that's how it has to be, then that's fine, and we just have to deal with it. Yes, it's not perfect. I think the fact that, you know, this is the toughest of the Ironman branded races, and it would be nice if it stays that way or it loses something maybe. And, you know, there's the two epic climbs of Fire Mountain, which isn't actually tough, but it's iconic. And then Mirador del Rio at the top end. You know, every year it's had those in, and everything else is kind of a bit of a filler and one way of getting between them, and how it happens. Yeah, that's not the important bit. But maybe, you know, maybe they have to lose the north end of the island for disruption and we just stay around the south. Yes, it won't be the same. No, it may not be quite as good, but it is what it is, and it's got to fit in with the modern world. So it looks like the section round El Golfo. I don't know if you remember that. The really beautiful bit around the South Pans that's been closed because of a sinkhole for years. That's getting mended. So there's maybe the opportunity that can come back into the course. It's early, so they wouldn't have to close it to the tourists for long. They could have a cut off there at maybe midday or something. So getting that back in would be lovely, and it would maybe take out some of the out and backs that people generally don't like. I love them because you can see where everyone else is. And actually, you know, I feed off everyone else's misery when I'm out there. I love it. So the tough out and backs into the wind where you can see people hating it. It's like, yeah, I'm used to this. This is fun. So it is what it is. I mean, the finish area you were talking about, that's been organised by, I mean, Fabio designed it, which was, yeah, that was a great move. And it keeps traffic flowing on the prom outside of race hours, so it's really clever. But Cabildo, I think, have funded that the last few years, so I can't see that changing. So hopefully, yeah, the finish experience down in the village on the beach, as they call it, you know, that should stay. And I think with more in-house stuff, maybe the expo and the merch might improve a bit. I mean, there's so much stuff they could do with designs of stuff for this island. It's crazy. And Club de Santa, you know, they haven't got the time to sort that out. They're running a massive hotel, so it could move on a level. So I think, you know, we have to be positive and get behind it rather than just put in kind of unrealistic wish lists and moan about what they decide.
Yeah,
I'm sure Ironman Spain want the best race they can, and the more people doing it, the better. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Good stuff. Brilliant answer. And you're quite right. There's really not much we can do, only speculate and you know, wonder. And all will be revealed, no doubt, soon enough. Moving onwards then towards the rest of the year, obviously your podium entitles you to another trip to Kona. The last time we spoke, you told us about the last experience you had in Kona. This opportunity to go to Kona, I guess, is the real McCoy. This is a podium opportunity and an exclusive invitation. Big question is, are we going to Kona?
It's actually going to Kona this year. No, it was lovely to get offered the slot. And I love these new age graded results. I think they're slightly biased towards us old folk, but yeah, I don't know if I got a podium roll down like it can roll to third, or whether I got one out of the age graded performance pool, as they call it now. Because yeah, that brought my time down to 9 hours 40 something. You know, this is brilliant. There's no way I was ever going to hit a 9:40 something here. But yeah, I like the way it shows the young guys that us old lads aren't bad. So no, my principal sponsor, aka the Missus, we've had these conversations about races, and Kona was a definite no this year. I didn't think I'd get a slot because, yeah, the way they've changed qualification, it is a lot harder now, which is good and how it should be. And it'll take a few years to sort it so it's truly fair. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. So I've already got 6 Ironman in the bag for this year. So adding in another one wasn't going to happen. We're off down to South America in November and December. Disappointing, we just missed the Iron Maiden tour of South America because that's always been a bucket list thing for me. But she can't get an extra month off work to go and see Iron Maiden in Santiago, unfortunately. So yeah, we missed that one.
How many more events? This is the bit that I was getting quietly excited about, because the last time we spoke, you just kept blurting out numbers of, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that, and then I've been looking at this and I wouldn't mind doing that, and sure, I might as well pick up a few 70.3s in between this and that. So, and here we are again. Have you got 6 more races this year? Is that
5 more? So what? Well, 6, yeah, 5.5. So yes, I've now ticked off Ironman Lanzarote. I've got some time off now. I've got another 7 or 8 weeks until my next Ironman, which is Ironman distance, I should say. It's a little local event that I've done the last couple of years called Odyssey. It's so much fun. The guys who run it are amazing, and yeah, last year there were less than 50 participants. It's just you turn up at registration, they give you an envelope and say, right, see you in the morning. I camp in the field that's got transition in it, so there's no athlete buses, and it's just brilliant. So I've got that at the start of August. Then 2 weeks later, I've got Ironman Tallinn again, followed by the 70.3 on the next day because I'm an idiot and that's just become a thing. So yeah, it's now what I do.
While you're in the neighbourhood, you might as well.
Exactly. And then I've got Ironman Wales, which is 3 weeks after that, middle of September. Finally doing Wales, which is good. I think that was the first race I entered for this year because it does tend to sell out, and yeah, it fitted in. No Nice, so yeah, that was perfect. And then yeah, back end of November, we're off down to Chile. The missus has realised I'm not going to stop. So she's like, let's use this as an opportunity to go nice places. So she said, find a good race in January. So I didn't. I found one in December. Patagon Man, it's one of those races I've always wanted to do. But it's a ballot entry. So while we were umming and ahhing and trying to sort a trip out, Ironman had obviously been doing that Google listening thing and introduced a brand new Ironman last weekend in November. Halfway down Chile, looks really good. They've been doing a half distance race there for a while, but they've decided to do a full. So I thought, well, Patagon Man's a ballot, better enter that one just in case. So then the trip's still on and we can go to Chile. And then yeah, I got an entry to Patagon Man as well. So the season finishes with 2 Ironman distance races in 8 days, the second of which is possibly slightly harder than racing in Lanzarote.
Jesus, you don't make things easy for yourself, Chris, do you?
No, that one's just going to be about having a nice day out and admiring the scenery. And yeah, and again, Chile's quite a big country, so you look at the map and go, oh, they're fairly close together. It's about a 17-hour drive or a 4-hour flight.
Yeah, it definitely looks a lot shorter on the map.
Yeah. So that's going to be a load of sightseeing between the races, and yeah, no prep. I'll do a bit of bike course recce if I'm lucky. Maybe have a swim in the freezing cold sea, and yeah, just go and enjoy it. The support crew thing there is good because they don't need to run. So I've got my brother and his wife coming out, and Fiona, the wife, and one of her friends. So yeah, I'm hoping it's just going to be a really, really fun trip, and just yeah, the races are the excuse to do it.
Brilliant stuff. Have you got a running total of how many you've clocked up now? What will your total be towards the end of this year if everything goes to plan?
So Lanzarote was number 51. So if I get through all of them, it's going to be 56 by the end of the year. I realised it took me 20 years to do the first 50 Ironmans. So if it takes me another 20 years to do the next 50, I'm going to be 75, and who knows what shape I'll be in by then. So yeah, let's ramp it up and get them ticked off.
Brilliant stuff, Chris. That is unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast and sharing it. You keep on looking.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Enjoy the year ahead. And the best of luck for what is in store for you later on in the year.
Registration for this place opens in a week, I think. So I will be signing up straight away. Get the numbers up for Ironman Lanzarote next year. So that'll be my 21st. That's going to be a special one, I think.
Brilliant
Whether
stuff.
they keep the same tradition of handing out daft medals to people who've done it multiple times, but if they do, then I go onto the pro podium 21 to 30. So that would be nice. But yeah, whether they keep doing that, who knows? That's not the important thing. It's just coming and racing that's fun.
I might just nip up to the kitchen now after this and maybe put away some dishes and do a bit of polishing around the house, and maybe drop a hint to the missus about a Christmas present as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Get the lawn mowed, do some painting. Yeah. It's the only option.
Good man. Chris, take care. Look after yourself. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
lovely to chat.